Hi, my name is Callie O'Brien, and I am responding to journal entry number 1. Starting with A. Tell me about a time in your schooling experience when your self-perception was the same as how you were perceived by the schooling system and its employees. Senior year, we had an award ceremony, and I was given 3 awards, but the one that kind of touched me the most was one that was given to me from 2 parents who had started this scholarship for their son who passed away, and he had special needs, and I was given the scholarship because of how well written my college essay was. And I feel like that is definitely a time where my self-perception was the same as how I was perceived, because my college essay is something that I really put my all into and worked really hard on, and in that moment it was really appreciated and seen. To continue on and explain my map, from a time when my self-perception was the same as how I was perceived by the school system. So this is my map. This is the award being presented. This is me going up to get the award. This is the audience. This is my family cheering, taking pictures. Farmingdale High School award ceremony. Yeah, so that was a time that my self-perception was the same as how I was being perceived. And to explain how I felt that night, it was kind of just, I felt accomplished. It was a really good feeling to finally be seen for what I've been working so hard on. And yeah, now to talk about a time that my self-perception was not the same as how I was perceived by the schooling system. And this would be, I would say, middle school, definitely middle school. And I would consider myself a bit of a leader. I'm somebody who speaks my mind. I'm a very vocal person. I don't always keep my opinions to myself. But I'm never disrespectful. I don't ever think I'm ever disrespectful. And in middle school, sometimes my big mouth would get myself in trouble. And teachers would look at me like I was disrespectful and talking back and thought I knew better than them, when that wasn't the truth. I just speak my mind. And so that is definitely a time where my self-perception was not the same as how I was perceived by the schooling system. And how it made me feel, confused. I mean, I was in 6th grade, so I'm sure I didn't understand self-perception and how I was being perceived, but I remember being confused. I definitely remember being confused why I was getting in trouble for being disrespectful when I was just speaking my mind. I didn't think I was being disrespectful or talking back. It was always talking back. But yeah, I would end up getting in trouble because I'd be the one girl in class to say what was on everybody's mind. But yeah, that's a time my self-perception and how I was perceived was definitely off. Okay, moving on to B, which is share one major point made in the Tatum 1997 chapter that can be helpful in thinking about self-identity and perceived identity by others in a way that may be new or familiar. One point in the Tatum 97 chapter that is helpful in thinking about self-identity is the looking glass self. So this is the concept that was introduced by Charles Cooley, and it suggests that we come to understand who we are by reflecting on the messages and judgments we receive from the world around us. So a quote that I found to go right along with this is when Tatum says, "Other people are the mirror in which we see ourselves." And this quote captures how identity is not formed in isolation, but is developed through interactions and feedback from others, as in peers, family, friends, teachers, coaches, anything like that. Tatum explains that this reflection is not one-dimensional, but multi-dimensional, which means that there's many aspects of our identity, such as race, gender, social class, ability, things like that. Moving on to part C, which starts with end your journal entry by identifying one point you can relate to the author of Williams' 2020 article. And I said one point that I could relate to from the Williams 2020 article is the idea that identity is deeply tied to family history and cultural roots, even when those connections are incomplete or unclear. I come from a mix of a family. I have 3 half-siblings. 1 is from my mom's previous marriage, and 2 are from my dad's previous marriage. And I'm the youngest and the only girl from both my parents being together. So I know the feeling of not having all the answers about where I come from. And I felt how that uncertainty can impact my sense of belonging. But when Williams states family history is beyond DNA and biology, it reminds me that identity is just as much about lived experience and community as it is about lineage. And so this is how I can relate to the author of Williams' 2020 article. Next, part C asks one point that you see differently from the author of the Williams 2020 article. And I said that one point I see differently is Williams's assertion that she was comfortable being seen as simply Black and wanted her multiracial background to remain private. I've always felt that my mixed identity needed to be acknowledged and expressed outwardly because it shaped who I am today. However, Williams wanted her to be private, kept private. And while I understand that, that's just not exactly how I feel. And to wrap up part C, we have what do you think will be the most rewarding and most challenging for you in studying your own education and schooling experiences from a critical standpoint this semester? And I think that the most rewarding part will be uncovering how my identity shaped the way I was treated and how I see myself as a learner. And I think the most challenging part will be confronting uncomfortable truths about biases, inequality, or awkward silences in those topics. But I believe that critical reflection is necessary for growth and becoming a more conscious educator and human being.